Tua kahara na whakawhetai o ngā mea katoa. Tēnei mātou e pōnonga e tūwhere te nākau kei roto I ta aroha ki a koe. Aroha atu, aroha mai. Aroha atu ki a koe tō tātou kai honga, tātou kai whakaora. Kia tau iho mai o manaakitanga kei rungi a tātou te tangata I ngā wā katoa. Tēnei mātou e tuku te mihi atu mo ngā huapai katoa iho mai koe ki a tātou tira tangata rungi I tēnei ao tūrua. Nō reira tautoko mai ki ngā whakaro te hinenaro te tangata I ngā wā katoa. Kia tai atu te manaakitanga ki a rātou e noho kei roto I te pauri te taumahatanga, aha ko kōwei, aha ko kaihia, me manaakitia ki te tangata. Nō reira mata atua tātou manaaki, e tiaki, e arahi a tātou I ngā wā katoa, ake ake, āmeni. Kia ora tātou.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Council today. I'll ask Hori Ahomiro, I believe, is going to give a karakia. If you'd like to add. Those have been done? Great, thank you. So with that, I don't seem to be any apologies. So we're all here. Good, thank you. And I would like to acknowledge the passing of Kingi Tuheitia Potato Te Wherawhero. I had the pleasure of meeting him at Pukahina earlier this year. Moi mai rāta ki wā e te kingi paimari rei. Are there any declarations of interest? No? Okay. There are no public excluded items. So we'll now move on to public forum. And first up, I have Don Brash.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councillors, for this opportunity of speaking to you this morning. There are two issues which the council could discuss today. The first is whether residents in the Western Bay should be divided on racial grounds between those who have some Maori ancestry, always now with ancestry of other ethnicities too, of course, and those who have none. It will come as no surprise to you that I strongly believe that dividing people on the basis of race is an abomination and totally opposed to where we should be moving as a country. We should be moving towards a country where every citizen has equal constitutional rights and where the Crown is sovereign. As former Labour Party Prime Minister David Lange said more than 20 years ago, as soon as you have two sovereignties, you no longer have a democracy. But some may object, how will the voice of Maori New Zealanders be heard without Maori wards? And the answer, of course, is in the same way as all other New Zealanders make their voices heard. Maori are elected to local councils all over New Zealand, even without Maori wards. And we've only to look at our own council to see that. Or we could look at Parliament. Yes, for historical reasons, there are 7 Maori electorates, despite the advice of the Royal Commission on the electoral system back in 1986, that Maori electorates should be scrapped if we adopted MMP. But there are vastly more Maori MPs in Parliament than the few that are elected in Maori electorates, including 7 members of the current cabinet, 35% of the total, all not dependent on Maori electorates to be in Parliament. That's my first point. Council should be opposed to Maori wards because they are contrary to where we should be heading as a country, where there are no racial distinctions in our governance arrangements. But there's a second issue to be resolved. Whatever our view on the objective merits of Maori wards, and that's whether we should take this opportunity to rescind our decision last year to create Maori wards. We know that if we don't rescind last year's decision to create one or more Maori wards, we'll be obliged to hold a referendum on the issue next year. And we know that when we last had a referendum on this very issue, the creation of Maori wards was rejected by an overwhelming majority, 78% of those who voted. And we know because Councillor Murray Benge commissioned a scientific poll on the issue just a few weeks ago that the overwhelming majority of our citizens still reject Maori wards. So if we fail to take this opportunity to rescind our decision to create Maori wards, we will needlessly incur the considerable expense of doing a representation review based on the assumption we will have one or more Maori wards, and the expense of the referendum, even though we know now what the outcome of that referendum will be. In other words, we will consciously incur extra costs, and the extra rates required to cover that cost because of a desire to signal our political correctness. It's virtue signaling at the cost of our ratepayers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Rush. Next up, I have Gary Webber.
Sir, you usually ask if any questions.
Of course. Thank you for reminding me. Did anyone have any questions of Mr. Brash?
Nothing at all.
Okay, let's ask the councillors. Any questions? No? Thank you. Gary Webber, please.
Kia ora. Kanui te mihi kia koutou koromātua James, nā kai Konihera, nā kai mahi, mai nā mema o te iwi o te tiriti tāngata. E mihi atu ana a hau ki te hinana o Kingi Tahitia. E kura naro ki tuat o rangi whakamoia āriki. Kia oki oki tau tāta rangatira. Ko Gary Webber toku ingoa. Ka tanga te titi, ka tanga te kaka, ka tanga hoki a hao. Greetings, Mayor James, councillors, staff and members of the public. I acknowledge the passing of Kingi Tahitia. For those who aren't aware, my name is Gary Webber, and the whakatauki is as the sooty shearwater voices its presence, as the parrot voices its presence, so too do I. I attend today's meeting to voice my view on the subject of Maori views, which is a local issue, not a New Zealand issue. So let me start. I'll give you, councillors and others who may be interested, a brief history of New Zealand. In 1840, when Te Tiriti o Waitangi was signed, the population of New Zealand was 120,000 Maori and about 2,000 others. Te Reo was the prominent language. Tikanga was the prominent customs and practices. Te Tiriti was a partnership agreement between iwi leaders representing the 120,000 Maori residents and the Crown representing all of the other immigrant residents. Unfortunately, in the period 1850 to 1940, the colonial government essentially created, as my good friend Tony Weehappy would say, the tyranny of the majority that exists today. I suggest that Western Bay of Plenty District Council's councillors go back to those first principles of what founded this nation when they make their decision today. Coming forward to 2021, the Department of Internal Affairs published a discussion document that asked councils and the wider public to consider the then two different processes used by councils to make the decisions about Maori wards and general wards. They invited feedback, which led to an amendment to the electoral law. Western Bay of Plenty District Council has recently undertaken a representation review. I stress the word representation of your district, not of New Zealand, of your district, with all the appropriate public consultation, and decided to create a Maori ward alongside 3 geographic wards. Nobody from outside the Kaimai ward can vote for a Kaimai ward councillor. and likewise the other 2 wards. The current situation is on the 17th of August, following public consultation, you resolved that in good faith and after public consultation. It may not have been by a significant majority, but it was the majority of this group who decided that. On the 24th of May, the coalition government introduced a bill to, along with other provisions, reinstate the poll provision for Maori wards only. Not for everything, just for Maori wards. At the LGNZ conference held just 2 weeks ago, a majority of councils voted to push back against the coalition government's proposals for changes to the local government electoral legislation in Maori wards and Maori constituencies amendment bill. Many councils in New Zealand and many of your neighbours have decided to vote to affirm their decision to establish a Maori ward. Councillors, I urge you to reaffirm your 17th of August 2023 decision to include a Maori ward alongside geographical wards. For our council, and that decision is truly representative of the demographics of our district. I also remind you, all of you, your vote today should reflect the views of the ward you represent, not your own personal views. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Are there any questions of Mr. Weller? No, thank you. Next up, I have Tony Wehappy.
Tēnā koutou e ngā kai kouni hera. I hope I will not be as long as I was with my whai kōrero earlier on in this meeting. The take is an important one. Tēnā koe, Dr. Brash. We live in a democracy where you can express your views as you wish and as you see. But we live in this democracy, we are governed by the tyranny of a white majority. Now, this coalition government has presented major issues. And I'm going to ask you, councillors, to consider what is happening in Palestine and Gaza. Over there, you have Israel, the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, who are committing genocide against the indigenous people of Gaza, the Palestinians. Our government is supporting the genocide of the indigenous people of Palestine, the Palestinians. Now that indicates an idea, a notion of white supremacy. Where can there be a justification for our government to support the slaughter of innocent men, women, children, and babies of an indigenous nation? We are an indigenous nation in New Zealand. So what this coalition government is doing here is reflective. Why is this government supporting that abomination that is happening in Israel? And I'm telling you that it's an indication of a subtle reflection that white is right, white is might, and white can do anything it likes. And so therefore, I want you councillors to think clearly as to where we are. New Zealand is not white. New Zealand is white and Maori. Look at the coat of arms. The coat of arms of New Zealand is a pretty Pākehā lady on one side and a Maori chief on the other. They're together, not underneath. The Maori chief is not underneath the lady Pākehā. He's standing beside the Pākehā and the Maori. And that's what we're asking you, Te Tautoko. Uphold the treaty. Uphold the treaty, which called for partnership between Māori and Pākehā, not domination of the Māori by your white majority vote, by your white majority rule. So that is the issue. Māori have believed that when the Pākehā talks, that it's all truth and it's all honesty, and you talk with integrity. That's what the Māori has believed. Trump has caused us to change our view about Pākehā's talking with truth and honesty. And we have little trumpets in Wellington, little trumpets, and we're seeing for the first time, Pākehā is not talking truth. Pākehā is not talking with honour and integrity. They're talking odd. And we need our councillors to tautoko the reality. If a Martian landed down in this council room and he wasn't colourblind, he'll think that there's no Māoris in this district. It's all white. It's all white. And so therefore, just justice and equity requires fair, proper and proportional representation around this council table by Māori. That's what justice, equity and the treaty demands. And the treaty demands. And I ask you, the council, to think. The last kōrero, yes, it is the last, is scriptural. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. We are an oppressed people in this nation. The problem is we don't really know it. We don't really know it. But when that oppression becomes aware amongst Māori, the situation will not be all that good. So give us what we demand. We will be demanding fair and equitable representation, Dr. Brash. We're wanting fair and equitable representation around this council table so that we can take our place. We represent 20% of this nation, 20% Māori, and yet we're not here. The last comment I would like to make is the last elections, Western Bay District Council. I made a conscious decision to stand for that council, and I congratulate and commend Councillor Laura for succeeding in the seat that I was looking to take. However, the result, Mr. Chair, out of a constituency, Mr. Brash, of 13,000, only 2,000 to 3,000 voted. 10,000 did not vote. Those 10,000, most of those 10,000 were Pākehā. We have 3,000 Māori, 10,000 Pākehā. 10,000 politician, non-vote. I was relying, Dr. Brash, upon the Pākehā to vote me into office. And then 10,000 of them in Makatu Ward did not vote. What does that say to you, Mr. Brash? The Pākehās they either didn't want me, which meant they would have voted against me, or they wanted me but didn't want to vote for me, or they couldn't care less. And they have the vote. They have the power, Dr. Brash. My people, I think it worked out, Laura got about 1,500 odd votes. I got 500. I was beaten by a Pākehā who's lived here for 10 years, and I've been here for 800 years. Now, that's democracy, is it? Is that democracy? It's not. Councillors, please stand by your decision and affirm Māori words. Leave it to the Māori nation to take this government into the Supreme Court, to uplift the treaty out of the political realm and put it in the realm of the Supreme Court for the Supreme Court to determine what are the rights of Māori under the treaty. And I hope that Western Bay District Council will help me and the Alawa Confederation taking this government to court to uplift the treaty into that realm. Kia ora no tātou.
Thank you, Mr. Weehappy. Were there any questions of Mr. Weehappy? No? Okay. And lastly, in public forum, I have Rion Turno.
Tuatahi kia tāhuri anō ki te mihi atu kia koutou tōku ake whānau. Nā tō tainga tīnana mai he whakanui i te kaupapa e pahere nei a tātou i tēnei rā anō e tangi ana tātou he kapua pauri ki runga nō reira te tīpakotanga kia kaha, kia maia, kia manunu kia tātou. Haere tonu, aha ko tā, haere tonu tātou. Anō te mihi atu kia koutou, kia mihi atu au kia koe e te rangatira, e te koromatua e James, tēnei ka mihi atu kia koe. Tainua tū rā ki o parirau i tēnei wā e ngā kai kaunihira, tēnei ka mihi, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa, e hoa mā. And I say that not lightly, e hoa mā, because I do consider each and every one of you not as just these councillors that sit on the upper echelons. I consider you as my friends. We've built a relationship. I think we've even built trust. And I just want to acknowledge that first and foremost. I don't want to be here right now, right here, in this space, in this time. I shouldn't be here. I should be with my people. I should be with my people right now. They're all gone over to the Tangi. I cried all the way here this morning from Otawhiwhi. I cried for my people. I cried for our king. I cried for Māori tanga. I had a realization, man, it's so hard to be a Māori right now. I feel like it's getting kicked left, right, and centre just for trying to be a Māori. I've been going through every emotion. We've been going through every emotion. Been through the anger. But I tell you what, where we're at right now, I'm just hurt. We just feel mamai. We just want to heal. We just want to move forward. We want better for our people. We want better for our tamariki. We're okay. We've actually taken the hits. We're pretty used to getting smashed around, but oh man, we thought we were on such a better trajectory and progression than the space that we're in and the reason that brings us together today. Just need to go back again and say, e hoa mā. We are friends. We are friends. I've got a bit of words here to guide my cordial today, otherwise I'm probably just going to break down. Man, honestly, I just want to go home and just lie in the corner somewhere. But I stand here with pride today with my people. I'm the chairperson for our partnership forum. I'm the chairman for Te Kāhui Mana Whenua Tauranga Moana. And I stand here on behalf of Te Iwi o Te Waka Te Arawa with pride. That's why I'm here today. My people asked me to come and stand on their behalf. And it's an honour and privilege to be here. Mai ngā kuria whāreki o te marākau ki te uru. Anei mātou te kāhui mana whenua o Tauranga Moana, anei mātou te ihu o te waka o te arawa, e mihi atu nei kia koutou. Ma te hoi ngātahi o te waka, ka tutuki pai te kaupapa. Simple old saying whānau. By way of paddling our waka in unison together is how we will best achieve the outcome. It's such an old cliche kōrero, I know, but it's so true. And the key thing in that is ka tuki pai te kaupapa. There are many ways to achieve things, but you must always seek the way that achieves the best for all. That's tikanga, the right way and the right thing to do. E hoa mā. Kia te whakaro i ngā kupu o te kōrero kia are ngā taringa. Careful consideration must be given in the composition of the words of what you say. Think very carefully, and we have considered this kōrero very, very carefully. This kōrero today reflects the collective stance of tangata whenua. It hasn't wavered. I'm not going to go too much into why. We don't need to. We've done this for many, many years. We stood here, 17th of August, I think the date was, and we celebrated. We celebrated. We remembered those that had passed on, those that had fought the fight for us to achieve what we as tangata whenua were seeking, which was the establishment of a Māori ward or wards. We celebrated on that day. We lamented those that had passed away, and we thought we were able to move forward together. Here we are today. Tiro whakamuri kia anga whakamua. We must look back to help us move forward. We don't get caught in the past, we know that. But we definitely look back for those lessons. The silly thing to do is make the same mistake again. So we always look back to take the lessons passed down, nā kōrero tuku iho, to help us and guide us going forward. Again, at the meeting on 17th of August 2023, you did resolve to establish a Māori ward for the 2025 local government election. We were encouraged at that hui for the strong support for the establishment of a Māori ward from our elected members. Again, reflecting on that decision on that day, I must acknowledge the significant kōrero that was shared by some of the councillors. And so I just want to quote some of those. Having guaranteed Māori members will help us be a better council. We can work together to make better decisions by bringing different perspectives. End quote. Next quote. The democratic process has allowed for this, and it aligns with our strategic priorities. End quote. Next quote. Māori representation would enrich and lead to better outcomes and better decisions. End quote. Again, we value our relationship with the current council, and we stand proud in the achievements that we've made together thus far. Having a Māori ward, we believe, will only enhance the relationship and the outcomes that we can achieve as a united community. Western Bay should be proud of where we're at the moment. You should be proud of yourselves as councillors. We, on our marae and our communities, we talk how proud we are of our relationship, because that's where it counts. If I remember one of the key things from the Hui a Mutia, I want to quote Kingi Tuheitia. He said, be Māori all day, every day, but go back to your communities and work with your people. That's where it really counts on the ground. My personal example, from that moment, my personal experiences, we went home and we did that. We connected. I come from Waihi Beach. Our community is strong. We're a strong community. We have presence and we work together. I want to talk a little bit about our position. And I want to start off by using another very famous quote, proverb. Nā tō raurau, nā ku te raurau, ka ora ai te tangata. With your basket and my basket put in the same basket, the people will thrive. That basket's going to overflow. We're starting to see that ketia, that basket starting to fill up, whānau. Let's not start throwing things out. Our desire for increased Māori representation at the decision-making table remains strong. It hasn't wavered. We understand that this may be a challenging decision for councillors today. And we also respect the importance of considering the broader community views. However, we believe that establishing Māori wards is crucial toward fair and effective representation for all. This aligns with the principle that all perspectives should be heard and that better representation leads to better governance. We strongly seek that you affirm your previous decision to support the establishment of the Māori wards in the Western Bay of Plenty District Council. We look forward to discussing our whakaaro with you as we move forward together. Mahia te mahi hei painga mo tō iwi. We must do what needs to be done for the betterment of the people. Kia ha te mea nui o te ao, he tangata. What is the greatest thing of this world? It is the people, it is the people, it is the people. I don't care where you come from, what race you are. It is the people, all people. That's our whakaaro Māori. What is good for Māori is good for all. Simple as that. Anyway, I didn't want to go back and start to have to explain the reasons why we've done this. We've been here, done that, and all got the T-shirt. But here we are. Here we are in this moment. I ask that you show, again, courage. Courage in your decision today. Aroha. We've got a full whare here. Imagine how full this would have been if what is happening wasn't happening. That's how passionate our people are about this. We want to work together. We want to row our waka together because you can help us achieve better outcomes. Again, we can go on about all the bad statistics that Māori find themselves in different areas. But we don't want to stay in the problem. We want to find solutions and fix the problem. We want to move into the positive. So I just, again, to finish off my kōrero today, I want to share our aroha with you because we know it's hard to for you guys to find yourself in this position again after what that great day that happened on the 17th of August. Pūmau ki te kaupapa, aroha ki te tangata. We will stand proud on what we believe in. We will talk and we will let you know what we believe in, but we will hold unconditional love for all people regardless. Nō reira koutou mā, thank you for your time, consideration today. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Mauri ora kia tātou katoa.
Thank you, Leon. Are there any questions councillors had? No? Okay. Thank you to all the speakers this morning. So we move on to the meeting proper. And there's only one real item. Decision to rescind or affirm the establishment of Māori wards. And I'll now ask Emily to take us to introduce this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Medina. I'd like to take the report largely as read, but would invite you to consider recommendations 1 to 3 in the first instance. The recommendations of this report set out the matters that are required for a decision by the 6th of September, and I will leave it in your hands to have that discussion and make that decision. I'm happy to take any questions before you begin that. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. So are there any questions, and I will be strict about questions, for Emily about the report? No, it's been around the houses a wee bit, this one, so I think we'll take that as... Oh. Councillor Wickers?
I would just like to move options 1, 2 and 3A.
Thank you. I was actually going to take 1 and 2 separately, just to take the make that simpler. Can I have a mover for recommendations 1 and 2, please? Councillor Daly and secondly Councillor Wickers. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. So I'll now take your wish to move recommendation 3A, which is to affirm. Seconding, I can see Deputy Mayor Scrimger. So I'll now open it up to debate. Councillor Wickers, would you like to kick us off?
Thank you, Your Worship. He honore, he kororia ki te atu, he maungarongo ki te whenua, he whakaropa ai ki ngā tangata katoa. He mihi tuatai ki te matua nui te rangi, ko ia rā te kāinga o ngā mea katoa. He mihi tuarua, ka nui te mihi ki a koutou katoa, nau mai, haere mai. And speaking in support of reaffirming, as in my view, there's been no material change since the last time I spoke in this decision over a year ago. Māori wards in our rohi are an appropriate way of ensuring effective representation of communities of interest as required in the Electoral Act. I note that over 7,000 ratepayer residents have chosen to be on the Māori roll as a way of seeing that what they value is represented. So although not all Māori have chosen this option, we know that this many in our rohi have. For those who see this as undemocratic, I pose this for consideration. Do you wonder why a majority of elected members across the whole country support Māori wards? In some councils, it's unanimous. Even though they know in doing so, it is detrimental to them at the next election time. They were elected by the community to make decisions faithfully and impartially and according to their best skill and judgment, and to execute and to perform in the best interests of those they serve. Perhaps that is worth pondering. Nō reira, ka mau tono te wero. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Thank you, Councillor Wickers. I'll say my bit now, I think. I'm speaking in favour of affirming. As Councillor Wickers has said, nothing of substance has changed since we made our decision on the 17th of August 2023. I acknowledge, as some have said earlier, some might see an element of pragmatism in attempting to avoid a poll, which the very latest estimates put at near 30,000 rather than 47. But this pragmatism is illusory. It ignores that a poll might equally be sought by those in favour of a Māori ward if we rescind, or the cost of defending a judicial review, as Kaipara is doing after they rescinded, which is likely to top $100,000. I did also have reservations about putting any future Māori ward councillor in the invidious position of being simultaneously elected and having their seat abolished for next time. But we have heard loud and clear from our tangata whenua that they want this chance for representation, however long it lasts. They wish to accept the wero, or challenge, of publicly demonstrating the value of a Māori ward councillor. I'm willing to offer that opportunity because I've seen and spoken with elected members across the Motu how well it works for them and their councils. We need to remain faithful to our earlier decision and do the right thing, which is what I note 20 of 22 councils had decided as of the end of last week. Above all, let's also remember that affirming commits us to asking the community their views and being bound by that result. And who can argue against that? Thank you. I now recognise Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
Thank you. Probably some of the notes, points that I've made here have already been made, but I think it's unfortunate we find ourselves in this decision of having to rescind or affirm the decision that we made 54 weeks ago. While some things have changed, some haven't. And if it was a good idea last year, I believe it's a good idea today. But I think it's worth, for me personally, I've been reflecting over recent weeks as how did I come to this view? I grew up in a very remote part of the South Island. My interactions with Māori were very limited. And so my view of the world and of New Zealand and Māori things was quite narrow, even though I thought I was well read and well informed. As a young man, I formed the view that Māori seats in Parliament were unnecessary, and I held that view for a long time. Fast forward to the 21st century, and we see here very early this century, the Bay of Plenty Regional Council embarked on a process which ultimately resulted in the implementation of Māori wards. I still thought that was unnecessary. By 2018, I was part of this council when the representation review process was entered into. And I guess I approached that anticipating that there would be a strong view push from Māori to have a Māori seat given the outcome of the previous process 6 years earlier. But the thing that I heard very clearly from Māori was that in spite of the fact that we had our Māori Partnership Forum and other opportunities for Māori to engage with Council, they said very clearly that at the end of the day, they were not part of the decision-making process and were unable to vote. I heard that loud and clear. I guess similarly to that time, we'd been through, or were going through a long process in regard to the land on Matakana Island, which is, much of which has ultimately been returned to Māori ownership. One of the things, without wanting to traverse all the processes that were involved there, one of the things that was very clear to me that if it was required to take land under the Public Works Act to establish signals for the harbour and the harbour entrance, which I accept as a very valuable tool, why did it need to take 450 acres? And that started to highlight to me the unfairness perhaps of some of these processes, and without going on about that, the insensity of other processes that have been exposed in our district. And that helped me to understand their concerns just a little bit better. 20 years on, we have the experience at the Regional Council here before us, and we know that it works. May not be perfect, but it works. That is why I have moved over time to accept that a Māori ward is a meritorious idea, worthy of implementation. But I want to say too that it bothers me immensely that as a nation we expend an enormous amount of resource and energy arguing about Te Tiriti versus the treaty or English version, about the principles and what is intended. Let's just admit that two peoples agreed to work together and do that respectfully. I see this as no longer as something that is unnecessary, but an opportunity. And we heard Rion speak about his desire for his people to work together with Council. So that is why I am happy to vote to affirm this decision.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour. Councillor Ray, you are next.
Tēnā tātou katoa. For me, it is with great sadness that we have to again, as a council, make this decision to establish our Māori ward or wards. It is to my knowledge that in August 2023, Western Bay as a council chose to honour our responsibilities under the Local Government Act, in particular, Part 6, Subpart 1, under Decision Making and Planning, to consider ways in which it may foster and develop the development of Māori capacity to contribute to the decision-making process of the local authority. Not to mention taking effect to our obligations under the Treaty of Waitangi, which is highlighted in our strategic priorities. With that said, I believe we have heard from the people whom this most affects, which is Māori. That loud and clear is that, in fact, they would like to have this in place in order to step further in the direction of meaningful, inclusive, diverse local decision-making. I do not see any reason to change that decision that was previously made due to a forced legislative requirement, which is why today I will be voting in favour of retaining Māori wards. Thank you.
Okay, needs further speak. Councillor Mowbench.
The first thing I want to say, Mr. Chairman, is when he spoke, what he didn't tell you is that I have hugged him on a number of occasions and begged him to stand for council. He did stand and then withdrew his nomination, and I couldn't understand that. You know he's a leader, you know he's got something to contribute, and he should be round this table and take the risk, like the rest of us do, to let the people either vote or vote against. I have and have always held a very strong view that the creation of Māori wards is divisive and undemocratic. It divides the community by race, and is the most important characteristic of each of us is who our ancestors were. When we take our oath, we make a commitment to represent our whole district and everybody in it. Pākehā, Māori, Indian and Chinese, and all the other nationalities that now live within our district. As a council, we make a serious effort to work well with Māori living in our district. At present, we have 2 Māori forums, and the staff in our Māori department serve local and hapu and iwi well. When the Labour government provided for the creation of Māori wards back in 2002, and that was the time that the regional council was established in 2002, I thought that was a seriously backward step. But at least the law, which enabled the creation of Māori wards at the time, provided for the possibility of a referendum to overturn a council decision to create a Māori ward if a referendum was demanded by 5% of the ratepayers. That protection was removed by the Ardern government, and as we know, many councils, including our own, have elected to create 1 or more Māori wards. The current government has told us that we must either rescind the decision to create Māori wards before the 6th of September, the end of this week, or have a referendum at the time of the next local body elections to decide the matter. I strongly urge that we vote to rescind our earlier decision. Why? Because we already know that if we don't, we will have to hold a referendum, and we know now that the result of that referendum will be. And I can say that with confidence. When the decision whether to have a Māori ward was put to the ratepayers in 2018, there was an overwhelming vote against such Māori wards. 78% of those who voted were opposed. I was one of 3 who opposed. The other 2 members are not here now. Kevin Marsh said, I've got Māori grandchildren. I just want the same for them. And Mike Lally said it was undemocratic. As I can say that with confidence, perhaps the mood has changed. Well, I commissioned a scientific poll on this issue in the Western Bay a few weeks ago. The poll was done by Curio, a thoroughly respected polling company, and that found that ratepayers in Western Bay remain strongly opposed to Māori wards. So if we refuse to rescind our earlier decision to create a Māori ward, we know, let me repeat, we know with a high degree of confidence that Māori wards will be thrown out. Extra expense, higher rates for absolutely no reason. Having a referendum on this issue at the time of the local body elections next year would also inevitably create a degree of anger and bitterness, perhaps especially against those councillors who had foisted the referendum on us when we had the option of avoiding it entirely. It is one thing to say that, well, we've had consultation and we've worked. Well, we haven't. We've had Māori forums, but we have not really asked the wider community. I'm a grandmother with 3 granddaughters. two of whom have Maori ancestry, and that's a fascinating story I wish I could tell you. I hold dearly to Martin Luther King's plea not to judge my children by the colour of the skin, but by the content of their character. Honouring that plea means that treating all people in our district as equal and rescinding the resolution to create racially based wards. I vote against the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Murray Bench. I now have Councillor Joyce.
Thank you. I'd like to recognise the speakers who spoke today, particularly Dr. Brash. I don't think people realise what a mess this country was in back in the 80s. And he actually helped stabilise the economy through his work as Reserve Bank Governor. But Dr. Brash, I don't always agree with you, as you know. So we'll carry on.
Point of order, sir. Make sure we speak through the chair.
Okay, I'll speak to the chair. I believe in Maori wards, and I supported them at the last council election. Anybody that I didn't get round to telling, the Karikari Waihi Beach Residents Association made sure they knew. If you campaign on an issue in an election, you should generally follow through. So why do Maori wards make sense to me? I'll give you 6 reasons. Partnership is number 1. It's deeply and rightly entrenched into our constitutional arrangements set by Parliament. Despite recent debate, all the big political parties are committed to the Treaty of Waitangi, and it has been included in well over 70 pieces of legislation by governments from a veritable rainbow of party colours, all parts of the system. Even the controversial bill promoted by Act Now seeks to work within a framework that the treaty is important to our constitution. Act accepts the Treaty of Waitangi as much as any other party in Parliament. Number 2, inclusion. Inclusion is an important principle of governance. Having a guaranteed Maori member will help us be a better council. This is not a zero-sum game, where one treaty partner wins at the expense of the other. We can work together, bring our different perspectives, and as Rion said, create a better result. No one loses from the creation of a Maori ward, no matter what the colour of your skin is. 3, Maori wards work. Our regional council has had them for 20 years and no one seems to bat an eyelid. Parliament has had Maori seats for around 150 years and it has carried on making decisions, sometimes good and sometimes bad. This is not a radical proposal. 4, Maori wards are empowering. Some, including 1 or 2 around this table, have suggested that the council appoint Maori representatives onto the council. But there is mana for all of us that comes from being elected. Our peers can remove us if they don't like us, like what we do. That is important. A representative serving at the grace and favour of the council is not empowerment. 5, and I'm sorry, Margaret, I have to disagree with you here. Maori wards are democratic. And funnily enough, Paul Goldsmith, the Minister of Justice, who put in the legislation to bring back the poll, he agrees. He spoke in Katikati a few months ago. I don't say he agreed with Maori wards, but he did confirm they are democratic. They preserve the very important principle of one person, one vote, as enshrined in our Bill of Rights. This is not co-governance, the wonky belief of the previous government that everything should be split 50-50. Democracy has been developing over the last 2,500 years and probably a few years short there. It's not perfect, but it's a better system than any other out there. Whatever happens today, it is incredibly important that the principle that each person's vote is roughly equal in power must be enshrined in any of our proposals that go to public consultation. Finally, number 6, Maori wards are essentially pretty much free. You know, I'm one of the tight asses on council. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to use that word. Each council, including ours, is allocated a pool of money to pay councillor salaries. If we have more councillors, we get paid less. If we have fewer councillors, we get paid more. So having a Maori member on the council, only people it costs is us. As I said at the time of the last vote, and I'm sorry to the speaker who said we consulted last time, because that was the same speaker who said we weren't allowed to last time. I'm disappointed that this council chose not to consult on Maori wards. It is ridiculous that we consult on where to build a dog park, but not this. We should seek to bring the community with us in this decision. We should stop hiding from it. If we go ahead today, I'm not too worried actually that the government has forced us to put it to the people at the next election. The cost, by the way, is about the same as the councillor's lunch. Right? It's not a huge sum of money. We could cancel our lunches and pay for the referendum that way. I'm quite happy with that. Yeah. Sure, it's a bit weird that there are only 2 council decisions that trigger a referendum. Not 1, 2. One is the Maori wards, the other is our system of voting. So when people go around saying this is the only thing that triggers a referendum, it's not strictly true. I'd be much more excited if voters could call a binding referendum on the much more compelling subject of high rates and overspending. Wouldn't that be fun? Look, there are some passionate views out there, but I think we'll be surprised at the change in views in our community since the last debate. I am no expert on tikanga Māori. I come from Pākehā Taranaki settler stock, and there's a few bad history points down there, which we never learnt at school. But I think one of the cool things on the marae was that you talk through matters together, exhaustively if necessary, rather than just impose one version of truth on the other side. So let's talk this through with our community and not try to rush decisions all the time. This one we have to make today, unfortunately. When I came here, I said when I first spoke that I'm here for the children and our grandchildren. I'm not sure my grandchildren were going to turn up. This is an intergenerational matter. Look to the UK, look to Brexit, right? Who voted in favour of Brexit were the older parts of the electorate. Who's regretting it? The younger people of the UK. Let's not make that same mistake in New Zealand, please, in our Aotearoa.
Thank you, Councillor Joyce. Next I have Councillor Coxhead.
Thank you very much to the speakers this morning, particularly Dr. Brash and Rion. Like you, I don't think any of us really want to be here again today doing this again. So thank you for your kind words. What I'd like to focus on a little more is something that we haven't really talked about this morning, is the success of Māori in local and central government elections to date. So our recent general elections saw 33 members of parliament of Māori descent enter the parliament last year. There are now 123 MPs, so this represents 27% of the total in central government. Also, Māori have done exceedingly well in local government in the last elections, and obviously this council recently in a by-election to Puki Makatu ward, obviously due to the sad passing of Richard Crawford, it was obviously won by Laura Ray. Now, Laura brings not only her local perspective, her local knowledge, but she also brings in a more youthful aspect to this council chamber. I think the person who's next closest to age to Laura in here might be James, might be 20 years different. So I think it's nice to have a little bit more of a...
Should try half that, but okay.
Yes, yeah. I'm not even going to say my age. So we now have 2 councillors of Māori descent on this council, one in the east and one in the west. So, as I say, we are getting better at this, and I think just through organic means, we've got a lot better at this in New Zealand. And like so many other New Zealand families, my family is a mixture of mostly European and Māori ancestry. But my fervent wish is that New Zealand focuses on being an egalitarian society. for the benefit of all of us, our children, our grandchildren, and future generations. I believe the only way we can move forward is with unity. The strength that binds us is unity, not division, and for that reason I cannot support voting for the Māori ward again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coxhead. I now recognise Councillor Henry.
Okay, kia ora everyone, and it's great to see you all here again. The decision I made last year was based on what I had heard from the people, and I thought it was what I believed they wanted, and that's how I voted. Since then, there has been a referendum for representation review, and that has only, for me, I don't see what we're doing here to be anything different to what we have been making decisions about based on what we hear from people about how they want to be represented. The people want to be represented through localism, through people who live in the ward that they are in. They want people within that ward to be representing them because they know the local feeling and sentiment, and that's what they're bringing to the table. So coupled with this was also in that review that people were wanting a Māori voice, a Māori ward to be at the table, and I don't see that to be any different either. As Karikari, we've currently got Karikari, Waihi Beach ward, we've got Te Puke ward, we have Kaimai ward, and we have a Māori ward sitting at the table representing. So I'm just trying to get away from the race card. I'm very, very tired, as I'm sure most of you all are, to be continually coming along and dealing with this sort of thing when all we should be doing is getting on with running and having a better country and better communities for our people. So just simplistically, that's what I feel is it's just another voice at the table. The other thing what's come through that review is that is something to be voted on. It's not a gift. Someone has to work to actually obtain that vote, to be able to stand up and say, I'm the one that you need at the table. And that's part of our democracy too. So for all those reasons, which aren't the reasons I said before, but I'm just trying to keep it simple, those are why I'm still supporting a Māori ward.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. Next up, I have Councillor Sol.
Thank you, sir. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. It is good to see you come and represent yourselves. Today, I guess I won't go on about my heritage. My councillors know I come from Taranaki. They know I came on the Aotea canoe. They know my awa. They know my iwi is Ngā Te Ruanui. That is where I come from, so I am part Māori. Just to sort of continue, I'm going to just give you some idea on where I come from. Basically, my background is with this part Māori heritage. My family and I was actually born and brought up in the earlier years within less than 200 metres of our marae. My family farm, which has since been sold, obviously many years ago, is now, has on it, or cited on it, the urapa. That's something else that's just come along as the urapa got full. We had to find somewhere else. Our land was it. So basically, I just got to say that that's the case. Now, my father, my history, this is where I come from. My father, he was the part Maori person, all right? My father was a Maori warden. He was number 388. So he was early, very early in Maori wardens. Basically, I think that's part of it. So in my history, councillors, in my history, many times I got moved out of my bed for Maori and non-Maori as a place to come where they could be safe from things that had happened in their family lives or where they had lost their homes, etc. My life has been spent in my early years totally in that situation because my father took his responsibility towards his community. He did many other things in the community besides that. In fact, it was one of the big things that's probably somehow led me into a similar situation, I suppose. Now, I basically say that we were a challenged family. My two sisters, one is deaf, one was intellectually handicapped and has now passed away. They were younger than me. So then our family basically, after the farm, it got split up, 10 children, la-di-da-di-da. My father's took the role of not, and I say this again, not accepting money from the estate because he helped administer it, etc. It's a line that also sticks strongly with me, funnily enough. So we were not well off, but most people in our days weren't well off. Most people got on together and worked together and lived a life pretty peacefully and happily. I guess to me it's one of those things that where we came from to where we are now is just actually shockingly different. Shockingly different. I personally, as a person, am a total underachiever. Totally underachieved. At school, I didn't learn to read till I was 12. I'm dyslexic. I still suffer from it. I somehow started to fix that up. I suffered the fact that in those days I was quite dark, so I was a Maori. I also suffered the same when I went onto the pā, onto the marae. You're a white boy, as I got older. So remember, it runs both ways. To me, okay, I didn't achieve well at school.
Councillor, I'm very keen to have everyone to have their opinion, but I feel we're getting a bit away from Māori
We're
Ward.
getting there, sir. And
Okay.
it is important, as it's been stressed by others here today, about the background. So I come to the point where, from there, I became chair of Ngāti Ruanui. Okay? I was a young man and I was made chair of Ngāti Ruanui. This is before the time of settlements, but I was chair. I also took a warrant as a Maori warden. I also represented Ngāti Ruanui, obviously, at the Aotea District Council meetings. I basically stood bail and surety for people and had them in my home. So that's where I come from. I also supported the development of the urban marae in Stratford for Kaharangi Marae. I was in the core and the start of that. My being is opportunity for everybody and supporting anybody and everybody to achieve. So that's basically where I come from. The hypocrisy at this table today, sir, is that we didn't consult with our people before we did this. It has been brought up already. We had workshops where Maori were brought in, but nobody else had the opportunity to say anything. We were told that we couldn't even ask the question with consultation. That is the sad. That's where we've made a mistake. And it's a bad one. I believe in equal opportunity. The Bible was quoted earlier, and in there is also something there about the sins of the fathers not being put on or vested on the children, their children. So what wrongs and so on went on in the past, and there have been many, and from both sides, that is one of the things that we also must consider. This could prove to be one of the greatest dividers in our whole country. I believe it's already well and truly on its way because we didn't do things properly and we didn't talk to the people and have it happen. The word organic came up earlier today, councillors, and organically we have moved to a point where representation is probably beyond the percentage of Maori. That's not an issue, because the other side is there's probably not as many people representing other Asian countries. 180 years ago we had a treaty. 2 wrongs don't make a right. We made mistakes, we did things wrong, and now we are doing things wrong again, for the times, I mean, not because of the history. Maori are moving along quite well without the divisive things of wards and seats. Look around the world today, as I say. These wards are not needed. They don't bring mana to our Maori. They are like a handout. That's how it's being treated. I feel ashamed that we do that. It will have a deep price to our country. Today we make a decision on something that is pretty important. I'm reminded of Dame Whina Cooper. One of her comments, and I have a couple. Take care of our children. Take care of what they hear. Take care of what they see. And take care of what they feel. And I know what I have felt in my life. The treaty was signed many years ago actually it's a quote again. The treaty was signed so that we could live as one nation in Aotearoa. That is what Dame Whina, quote, said, all right? Basically, I guess I have one other little thing, something I was brought up with, sir, and this is pretty well closing it for you. In the land of the free, like our own country, where our babies are taught as one, where they learn to be men, lift up their faces, and then walk hand in hand into the sun. That is a song, or words, part of the words from Kini Quartet, a song that I was brought up with. A lot of you here still probably must have heard those songs and know the Kini Quartet. So to me, I implore you, councillors, I totally implore you to rescind today and go back to the people. Go back and start again, because this is wrong and it's going to create more trouble. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Sol. Next up, I have Councillor Granger.
Thank you, Your Worship. In August 2023, when we were last debating this issue, I said that I was disappointed with the process, that it was rushed, that we could have waited, and that overall it was bad governance. Now here we are again, being rushed by the time frame set by central government. And as with the last process, and as has been mentioned before today, once again we've been prevented from consulting with our communities. It's not the way local government is supposed to work. This has been pointed out, we consult about dog parks. So we could wait and follow a formal consultative procedure as the Local Government Act requires us to do for practically everything else we do. We consult to death. The process we could follow is set out in the Amendment Act that's just recently been passed, and that is to rescind now, abandon the current representation review, and begin again in the next triennium when Council can properly consult with its constituents and arrive at a measured, well-considered and unrushed decision. That process avoids the acrimonious, divisive and unhelpful debate and rhetoric that will inevitably accompany the required referendum that must be held alongside the local body election in 2025. So I say, let us avoid division and antagonism, sloganeering and placard waving, and instead work together in a measured, sensible and adult way with a brand new representation review in the next triennium. At the combined Tangata Whenua Forum workshop last week, I asked the forum members why they considered the affirm referendum pathway a better process than the rescind consult pathway. No one could or would give me an answer. I have no desire to see our community divided by and with an acrimonious referendum, so I cannot vote to affirm. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Granger. And I think we're almost there. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against? Councillor Daly.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Hoping to be last, but Don wasn't forthcoming. I must admit this isn't a black and white decision. To some it's an open and shut case. To me it just seems to get more complex every time this decision gets thrust upon us. As elected members of local government, we seem to be the meat in the middle of a central government political hot potato. But within that hot potato, we're also sandwiched between Māori, who are adamant we should have a Māori ward, and those on the other side who are equally adamant we should not. It's true, I've voted twice before on the same resolution. The first time in 2017, the decision was overturned by a resounding referendum result. The second time, just over a year ago, is now back before us to affirm or rescind here today. So I won't repeat the reasoning I put forward last time, but I do want to touch upon the process, the timeframes and the deadlines imposed upon us by the new legislation to hustle a decision through council with little or no time to have a meaningful consultation and conversation with our people. It's simply unacceptable that this essentially becomes a conscience vote for councillors. We're hearing arguments for and against around the table, but we haven't had the benefit of submissions received through a balanced consultative process like we do with our long-term plan, with CapEx and OpEx budgets or level of service decisions. We're not treating our residents and ratepayers with the respect they deserve and the right to have their say before we make this decision. I do acknowledge the 250 form emails we have received over the last week and a half urging us to rescind our previous decision, and listening to the arguments put forward by my fellow councillors who are voting to rescind, I can't honestly say that I disagree with them. There is some truth in everything I've heard and read. And I think that is why it has become such a divisive and disruptive issue. Everyone believes they're right, and strongly so, hence the emotion, anger, and often vitriol. While Māori wards are a mechanism that enables participation by Māori in local authority decision-making and processes, it is not ideal and comes with flaws and inequities that actually limit wider representation by Māori in the general wards. I'm not sure it is fair and effective. So I also acknowledge that Māori have told us they would rather take this representation system with all its limitations, even if it is only for 3 years, rather than retaining the status quo, which they believe disadvantages them even more. Ironically, the possible reduction of general wards because of Māori wards may lead to the loss of Māori councillors elected under the current 3-ward system, or maybe not, because as Tony Wehapi just said, Laura Ray was largely elected resoundingly over him by Pākehās. With regards to the cost of having to hold a poll alongside the 2025 election, my response is, having made this decision with almost no consultation, at least we will now be ensuring that our people will have their say, albeit after the fact, with a very blunt instrument that doesn't really come with the opportunity to have a reasoned discussion about the pros and cons between people in a non-confrontational manner, and let tangata whenua have their ward for a while at least. It is the cost of democracy, just like having to hold a by-election when a councillor dies in office or several community board members resign. A Māori ward poll is no different. apart from the fact we could rescind the decision to alleviate the need, of course, as has been suggested. But the same argument that we do so without significant consultation still applies. And we'd be revisiting the process again in 3 years' time, although yes, it could be a more thorough consultation then. I've made a concerted effort over the last couple of weeks to speak to as many people as I can about this decision, people whose opinions I respect. A common response is the perception that some Māori do suffer from inequity. In social and economic outcomes. My wife agrees with me. Maybe having a Māori ward is a step towards, I wasn't going to do this, more connectivity, inclusivity, and better outcomes for all of us. So the surprise to me was the large percentage of people in my neck of the woods who do support this decision. I did get a couple of very angry responses also, and it's clear there is a personal toll to be had for those affirming today. It's not unlike turkeys voting for Christmas. So next year's election result may well come down to a turkey shoot. Unfortunately, the same does apply for those who responding to yet another unfunded central government edict. I discovered a book of great whakatauki at Wellington Pōneke Airport recently. So in the tradition of Rion Tuano, waiho I te toi poto, kawa I te toi roa. Let us keep close together, not far apart. He tangata ki tahi, ai.
Thank you, Councillor Daly, for that moving kōrero. Lastly, I have Councillor Thwaites.
Good to go. Good to go last, short and sweet. Look, I'm very proud to live in a region with a long history of Maori representation, Maori wards. It's outstanding. Bay of Plenty took the lead, and I'm very proud to be part of that. I'm also very proud to be part of a member of Smart Growth. On behalf of this council, it has representatives from the 3 levels of governance, being central government, regional government, and the 2 local authorities, along with our tangata whenua partners. It is a true partnership. The 5 entities work extremely well to address the issues of this area. Now, as Grant pointed out, I didn't have to actually serve 24 years to get a chance to vote for this 4 times. I've already affirmed 3 times for Maori wards. Today's my 4th. Oh, listen, government sped up my timeline a little bit and gave me a 4th shot, so that's all good. Look, creating Maori wards are a plus for all of us. It gives us a valuable Maori perspective to strengthen our decision making. It is important for Maori to play a key part in our governance, and I will be affirming the creation of a Maori ward today. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, there just remains the right of reply for Councillor Wickers if he should wish to do so.
I do wish. As I entered the building this morning, I was greeted with a waiata, tūtera mai nā iwi. The author of this waiata was Wireme Te Tau Huata. The background to him writing it was he was travelling with his family from Napier to his home in Wairoa with his family, and they stopped at Lake Tūtera. And for those who know the area, the mountains rise up around them, and so he gave this kōrero to his family, tūtera mai nā iwi, tātou tātou e, to encourage them that people need to stand together in unity. And we live in times where there's forces that are trying to divide us, and there's voices on both sides, and we've heard that today. So last time I spoke, I finished with a challenge, so I'll leave another one today. And it's the words of Wiramu Te Tau Tuata. Tūtera mai nā iwi. Tātou, tātou, yeah. Let's demonstrate that there is a better way.
Okay, so all the councillors have now spoken and right reply, so that just leaves me to put the motion. So that is to affirm the decision from the 17th of August last year. So I'll put the motion, and all those in favour, please raise their hands. 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Okay, I'll declare that carried. Thank you.
Sir, I call for a division. Our name should be recorded.
Thank you, Councillor Mowbray. That will be done. So we, with no further information to proceed, I'll ask Chris, perhaps, or Vion, if you're still here, to close the karakia.
So you have not recorded the division. The name should
The
be
government
called.
staff have recorded the division.
We have the names.
Could the vote be recorded by Ward 2 so that we can see how the Ward votes? So I would like to know, as a kind Ward member, how my score voted. So can it be recorded?
Well, no, the councillors who voted whichever way will be recorded. The membership of whichever ward is very public. It's not hard to find. So I think that you just list the councillors, how they voted, and you'll know your own ward councillors. Okay, so karakia.
Yeah, kia ora tātou, just a big acknowledgement to everyone here today. Anō, pūmau te kaupapa, aroha ki te tangata. Tū mai whānau. Tūtira mai nā iwi, au e tātou, tātou e. Tūtira mai nā iwi, au e tātou, tātou e. Whai a te maramatanga, me te aroha e ngā iwi, kia kotahi. Kia kotahi rā, tātou, tātou e, tātou, tātou e, whia wehi. E te atua ka harawa na whakawhetai o ngā mea kātua tēnei mātou e tuku te mihi ki a koe anō mo ngā huapai katoa I homai koe ki a tātou. Iara, 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 mai te awatea tainua ki tēnei haura. Tēnei te tono atu ki a koe, kia tai atu te manaakitanga ki a rātou, e noho māwiwi ana, e noho pauri ana, e noho taumahana, aha kōwai, aha kua kaihia, tau I hau mai tu manaakitanga kei rongi te tangata. Ki a rātou hoki, e noho māwiwi ana ki ngā kainga maha, whare tūroro, whare hinaki, whare mai angiangi, tau I hau mai tu manaaki. Ki a rātou e tarawa kore, hāpai tia ki te mana kei roto I te tangata. Nō reira, manaki tori mai ki a tātou te tangata I hui mai nei I tēnei rā, kia haumari te haere I rungi te huarahi, tainu atu rā ki te mutunga te rā, kia hoki pai ki ngā whānau. Mā te atua tātou e manaki, e tiaki, e arahi a tātou, mo ake tonu ake, āmeni. Kia ora tātou.
And with that, we'll close at 11 on the dot. Thank you very much, everyone.